Well, hey there. Welcome to another chat with a pastor. It's Monday evening, and I'm here chatting with Pape, John Pape. Pape is one of our youth pastors at OCC. How you doing, Pape?
I'm doing good. I'm doing fantastically great. That's our company line. My
Yes,
son always says that. And how about you, Jesse? How are you doing?
doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. The sun was out, and it was a nice day. I'm thankful for it.
Mhm.
Um, so for the past couple weeks, we've been talking through this series, really centered around the whole season that we're in. Pape, I know you've gotten to listen in on some of the chats that we've had, and essentially we've explored how the COVID-19 epidemic and this season we're in of quarantine presents us with a lot of obstacles and tensions and struggles, but we can reimagine those things and see them as opportunities, opportunities to grow, things that we can lean into, and really become more like Christ in. Last week, I got to talk with Christopher Harley, our children's minister, and we chatted about how we can grow in our family lives during this season. That was a good chat. Go back and check it out if you missed it. But today, Pape and I are going to explore something that he and I both care a lot about, and it's really how, um, th- in the realm of our minds, we can affect our experiences. And so, Pape, to start us off, what has your thought life, positive and negative, been like throughout the season we're in?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm all over.
Mm,
There's a lot of positive and there's a lot of negative. So you know, some of the positive is, I'm home more,
hmm
um, and so we have more meals together, and that is wonderful. I mean, that's a wonderful thing.
mm,
Um, the other positive I see is like different people stepping up. Like you think about healthcare workers, like you're going to work where you would possibly encounter this virus, where
mm,
you would not encounter it anywhere else. You may not have the opportunity to encounter the virus anywhere else, and so you're running into the danger. So those are positives. The negative is like just this tension of wanting to reach out. By nature, I see a need, I want to meet a need,
mm.
uh, and you're trying to balance that with how to protect your family, how to be a good citizen. I would love to just have like all the kids in the community at the gym to play nine square, but it's just not realistic right now. It's not allowed. So it's rough. Plus, I have two beautiful grandsons. They're great,
mm.
and I'm not seeing them right now. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I feel like for many of us, it, there's that blend of both, and some of the negative things carry with them a positive. Like you mentioned, getting more family meals together because of the extra time. Um, and so the same has kind of been true for Kayla and I, my wife and I. We've just had in general more time together, and that's actually been refreshing for us. And that can take you either way. You can either get more irritated with each other, which has happened too with us, but you can also cherish that time as well. And regardless, something that we both know to be true, Pape, is that our thought lives, our positive and negative thoughts, affect our experience of life. Can you speak into that some, and maybe how you've seen that in your own life or in just life in general?
yes, everything in life can be a positive or a negative, and it's how you frame it in. And not everything is just all positive, but even when you go through a hard time, there's always the blessings that you can see in
Mm,
that time. Um, Even when you go through a hard time, there's maybe people helping you, or that you're drawn closer to God, and so there's always a blessing wherever we're at, and we have to choose to focus on that blessing.
mm.
Um,
I like that word choice. Speak into that more. How is it a choice? Why is it a choice, and how does that affect us?
Well, we have a choice to focus on the blessing or the burden. And I think a lot of that choice, some of it is how you, um, what you feed. And
Mm,
I can speak to that with scripture, even is, that we have to guard our hearts from either negative influences or negative thoughts. The writer of Proverbs tells us to guard our hearts. And then you follow that up with the teaching of Jesus and how he says that it's not really what you eat that makes you unclean. It's what you put in your heart and then comes out of your mouth and your life
mm,
that makes you unclean, or we would say sinful. So you have to control what goes in, that's for sure. And
mm.
that's a choice.
And you shared with me that you've personally experienced this some in your past, right? Like, tell us a little bit about that if you're comfortable with that.
Well, sure. It's not a very far in the past, actually.
Mm,
But I noticed that I was maybe more of a negative person, and I still struggle with that. Where I'm somewhat critical in thinking, and just like, how can I make things better? But
hmm.
that can come across as and start to control my life as criticism. So I have to be careful with that. But I've cut out some negative influences. Like I'm a big country music fan. I might be the only one on our staff that is. I know John's not.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm not either, man.
Yeah, but you have to limit. A lot of music in general, not just picking on country music, but can be negative and unwholesome. And you like just choosing to listen to playlists. One time, Corey preached a sermon. He talked about fight songs,
Mm,
and he preached from the Psalms. And I think that's super relevant to put positive music and positive thoughts in your mind, and filling your mind with Scripture, of course.
mm. Yeah, I see the same thing play out with me, man. And in particular, uh, when I speak my negative thoughts, uh, it almost reinforces the negativity. And I almost it almost feels silly that it was just a couple years ago that this dawned on me. But like I was talking to Kayla about something going on at work that had been stressful, and um, as I talked to her, I realized my emotions grew and the problem grew in my mind as well.
Mm.
And I, it's almost like we're feeding ourselves our own negativity when we go into a moment like that and speak out um, the negative.
Mm.
Um, but just like you've mentioned, the positive carries a lot of power, and gratitude carries. So, what really is gratitude, Pape?
Uh, um, yeah, I like that, to be clear, to define. And gratitude's really just a simple affirmation that there's something good going on, or there is a gift being given.
Mm,
And so, like, one, the acknowledgement of that, and then realizing that to express gratitude, you have to decide that that gift didn't just come from yourself. And as Christians, our gratitude would start from God, but it also overflows into that other people have blessed us. And so and then once you realize, hey, there's something good, and someone else caused something good, then you express it, you let it out. You can have those thoughts and lock them in your mind, and they'll help you, but to get it out is where it starts to echo and ripple and
mm.
and grow. And so, yeah, we have to have that acknowledgement of a gift of goodness, and that it comes from someone else.
Hmm. I like the word you use there, echo or ripple. Like that gratitude has a ripple effect in our lives. Is that what you're meaning?
Yes, yeah, you know, it creates a culture of gratitude, so it will affect those around us to help them be more grateful. But but it also has some really good benefits. When you're a person of gratitude, there's some really good benefit. God commands us to be gracious or have gratitude, and that should be enough. But a lot
Mhm.
of times we want to see the proof or the fruit of that gratitude, and there's plenty of that fruit. You know, if you're a person of gratitude, you have better mental health, you sleep better,
Mhm.
you have better relationships, and you're a more giving and positive person. I mean, there's some studies that would link that there. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I recently was reading in a book by a guy named James Bryan Smith. It's called The Good and Beautiful God, and he gives some practices that he calls soul training exercises. Um, and the most recent one I read was about gratitude, and he talked about creating a gratitude list, like things that you just are grateful for, and he said to add to it every day. But in doing that recently, like I've discovered things that I didn't realize I was grateful for, like in just like the little things, like a soft blanket or a warm cup of coffee or whatever it is that that almost trains your mind to dwell in the positive and the excellent and praiseworthy things. Um, but what would you say, Pape, are some other ways that we can uh, maybe train our minds to think differently?
Yeah, hey, that's a very good point that you said there about that you think of new things to be grateful for.
Mm,
There, sometimes we get stuck in three or four things that we're thankful for, and we need to push past that. So I'm really glad that you said that. Um, but kind of what I do, I keep a journal.
mhm,
Um, Actually, I'm very thankful for my journal. It was a gift. It was a beautiful gift from my daughter. But
mhm,
and I write down every day some of the blessings, and I try to reflect on the day before. What were the specific things in those in that day that was a blessing? And I think it's important. A negative thought gets stuck in our head almost in an instant,
mm,
but gratitude to get stuck in our minds takes maybe I think between 5 and 10 seconds. So you have to dwell for that to take root. So to
mm,
to dwell and list things to be grateful for, that's definitely one of our habits. It's one of my habits. It's one of our family's habits. So that's definitely something that we need to start doing, just making a list.
mm. I love that, man. And I love the idea of doing it as a family, and how it can impact your family.
Mhm.
Are there any other things that if when you're speaking to someone who is maybe in the slumps because of where their mind has been lately, what would you say to them to encourage them, or to say, hey, this is a step that you can take today to work toward this?
There's a couple of things. One is to look in the moment for what you are grateful for, no matter what you're going through. And Drew, we have been through some very hard times, but even in the moment, like we realize that we are in close proximity to some
Mm,
wonderful hospitals, world-renowned hospitals for what he has, which is a miracle in itself, and
mm,
that we're positioned here. Just things like that. There's always something to be thankful for in the moment. That would be one thing,
mhm,
and then the other thing would be to think of greater than the moment, and think about the goodness of God, and that life is a gift, and none of us really asked to be born, but we were given this amazing gift of life. And just kind of remember that we didn't create the trees, and that we, even if we planted them, we didn't create them. you know um, and we didn't create the sea, and we didn't create um, anything really that we see uh, in a nutshell, you know. So just kind of
Hmm.
remember that, remember the goodness of God.
Hmm.
And the other thing I like to think about too really is grace. Is that I have the hope of heaven,
Hmm.
and the privilege of being a child of God. Um, and I think, you know, sometimes we get, you know, one, it's good to be thankful for our circumstances, something that's going on in the immediate present, but to take a step back and look eternal. I think that's valuable, very, very valuable.
Absolutely. And I find that to be reshaping for us, uh, because I grew up with a lot of like self-deprecating thoughts, and realizing who I am because of Jesus and being adopted into the family of God was absolutely transformative for me. And one final thing, Pape, you mentioned to me about choice. How is this a choice, and how does choice play out in all of this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we choose to be grateful people, and there's a lot of things that we can't control, but we can control what we think about. And you know, the writers, the Apostle Paul in Philippians 4, you know, talks about not being anxious, and he says, you know, give your request to God and be with thanksgiving. So be thankful, and then he ends that part of the letter by saying, uh, you know, whatever is good, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, think about that,
Hmm.
and don't think about, you know, the opposite would be don't think about those bad things. And so you've got to retrain your brain and make the choice, you know, to be more thankful or more hopeful.
I love that, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Friends, we have the opportunity to choose joy, gratitude, and ultimately then leading to peace during this season. Thanks for sharing with us, Pape, your heart about uh, really like how our minds can shape us in our experience. Pape, if anyone wants to connect with the youth ministry at OCC, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is social media. We have social media. You know, there's uh, the high voltage or the high school OCC high school ministry, and
Hmm.
then, you know, just go on our website occ.church, and you can find Corey's email or you can find my email, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And so, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pate, for being with us. Thanks again, friends. We'll be back again next Monday. May you be blessed and have a great week. We'll see you later.